Alright, so with that, I think we're going to start our round of updates here for the night of the 19th, March 19th here. The One Real Mango says, I read an article earlier that Russia and Belarus are going to move down the Polish border to cut off aid supplies. Yeah, that could be very possible. In fact, if we look at the map here, a few things that concern me are two things. A, the troop movements we've seen by Brest, okay, in the Brest region. We've seen a lot of Russian force movements, all right, in Belarus here, on the border with Ukraine. Secondly, is the strikes that we've seen in these targets from Lutsk all the way down to Lviv Oblast, okay? We've seen over the past few days there's been a lot of military targets struck in and around this area very close to the Polish border. Somebody says, can I make the map bigger for... Oh, yeah. Yeah, let's do that. Give me a second. One second here. Uno momento, as they would say. Want to be able to see the map, so... Okay, there we go. This will work. Okay, we'll transition. So I think tonight what we'll do is first I'll run through the live UA. Usually I start with going through my kind of headline topics, but I think instead what we'll do is we'll start with live UA map instead and just kind of go over some of the force movements and kind of take a look at what's going on in the area. So back again to what we were talking about over there on the west end here. Here, I believe these are the movements we were talking about 12 hours ago. Yeah, so I covered this in my morning report. At around 1300 Minsk time, a column of equipment of Belarusian armed forces with red square marks was moving from Malarita towards Brest. The column includes a Kaiman armored reconnaissance vehicle, MAZ trucks, and volats with mortars, as you see there. And there was another alert here about 11 hours ago saying that 11 staff members of the Belarusian embassy in Ukraine had left the territory of Ukraine, led by the ambassador again. We've also seen a lot of strikes happen down along this area. There was that training facility. There's been a few air bases that have been struck in this area and a few military targets that have been struck in this area. Right down here to this report from 14 hours ago. The spokesman of Air Defense Forces confirmed that Russian strike near Delitin, but cannot confirm damage, casualty, or types of munition. Again, right smack dab down the western end of Ukraine here. So that possibility of them moving down the Polish border, it's always a very real possibility. It would essentially cut off all support, all aid, all forces that are heading into Ukraine from the west there. And it would definitely be very impactful on the Ukrainians' ability to mount a defense. So I'm trying to find where I would have left off from so that we can kind of go from there. Yeah, I covered all this stuff earlier. I'm just going to kind of give you guys like the latest updates, and then we'll... Yeah, so I think right here 6 hours ago is where I left off. So I'm going to kind of give you guys some of the latest updates here, and then we'll kind of look at some of those Russian force movements there. Okay, so about 6 hours ago, the Mariupol consul says the Russian army has forcibly moved thousands of Mariupol residents to Russia. The civilians were allegedly taken to camps where Russians checked their phones and documents, and then forcibly moved some of them to remote cities in Russia. We've been hearing reports on that for about 24 hours now. We're still waiting to get some more information on the specifics of that. We know that some of them, didn't necessarily want to go to Russia. That we have had confirmed reports of that. So it's kind of unclear how that situation is going to pan out and what exactly is going on there. 5 hours ago, a Russian Orlan 10 recon drone crashed or was shot down. It was claimed to be in the vicinity of the village of Mosachun. Here, I believe that is near Irpin, also near the Gostomel airport there. See that drone went down there, and again, the city of Kyiv, the city center is right here. Okay, it's right here, where we saw, Tarp Guy and all of those, cameras and stuff, is right here in the city center. Okay, so not very far away are these battles taking place on the outskirts of the city, by Irpin, Bucha, along the M06 highway here. But then even further to the south, there's still pockets of Russian troops in and around this area that have set up footholds and operating bases in and around this area. Taken up defensive positions in some of these areas, in order to they kind of want to like create, like a bridge, a link here. They want to, cut off the city to the south all the way to the river. So far, they've been pretty unsuccessful in doing so, though. However, the Ukrainian defensive forces have been able to put up a significant fight in that regard, and have been able to keep them from fully encircling the city there. Here you can see some destroyed Russian military equipment at the southern front lines. This is down by Mykolaiv there, near Kherson, and you see some photos there of some of those destroyed military vehicles there. 4 hours ago, the Russian army shelled Zilodolsk in the Dnipro-Petrovsk region. Again, I'm probably not pronouncing that correctly, but I'll show you where that is on the map here, so not too far from that other report. Another report from 4 hours ago says the Russian army has shelled the Velka Krostromoka village in, again, that same region there. Here you can see there's been a lot of activity happening in that region. And then here our last update we have on live UA map. Again, we're probably getting that nightly lag behind that we usually have with live UA map here. But about 3 hours ago, the town hall building in the town of Kamyanka Buzka in the Lviv region is on fire. Rescuers are currently working at the scene. We're still not sure if that is a result of an attack or of something else. Again, though, it is very concerning seeing those Russian troop movements up there in Belarus on the border here, possibly looking to cut them off to the west. Definitely a real possibility. So, just to kind of analyze a little bit about, some of these movements here that they're making. They're still piling. Their main corridor to bring forces into the country is again right across these borders up here near Chernobyl. Okay. In fact, this highway here, the P56, comes right across the border there, and right smack dab through Chernobyl, and then down through the zone, right here to the PO2. It connects up, links up there. And so that is their main corridor to bring forces down into this area, as well as this other highway here. I believe that, again, that's the, what is it? Yeah, the PO2 here, that comes down there from the north. And so they're still actively bringing forces and supplies down from the north here into these areas. And early on, their priorities were getting a hold of these air bases, which they now have full control over in most of these areas here. And what they've done now is they've kind of set up this linked little air bridge system that takes forces from Russia, brings them down closer here, and then they can get out onto these highways and head down to reinforce these lines. I would imagine they probably have forward operating bases in these areas here, probably by Dimer and Borodyanka. There's probably some forward operating bases in that area. Again, the front line here is near Irpin, Bucha, Hostomel. And then they control all the way down to the MO6 here, and you can see they've now assumed control over quite a large chunk of that highway. But we've also seen kind of a group of Russian soldiers break off from this main group here and kind of move westbound towards Zhytomyr. And you can see there's pockets of conflict that have broken out in some of these areas as they look to kind of lock down the MO6 further west. In this area here, you see the MO6 because there's a lot of people that have tried to again for supplies and weapons. The Ukrainian defensive forces kind of reroute, they detour down to the south, and they pop back up onto the MO6. And so I think what's happening there is the Russian forces are trying to get a foothold here further west to stop that activity from occurring. You also see that they're trying to take hold of some of these airfields to the south as well, so that they can bring forces in. But again, there's pockets of Russian forces along all of these highways in this area. There's a few rail lines that run through here that are still open and flowing. It's the main corridor in which citizens are escaping on. It's how Mehmet is going to get back into the city. As of this time, the rail lines kind of to the south that are coming into the city are still intact and are safe to, to some regards safe to bring people in and out on. So, scrolling out here, if we go take a look at kind of what's going on towards the east side of the river, you can see those Russian forces have been able to kind of take up a pretty good chunk here, kind of to the east of Kyiv. I believe, yeah, so earlier in the week we were watching that pan-tilt zoom camera. I believe it was a ZetaNet camera. Originally that was our Grease Guy cam. It was pointing in the direction of the Boryspil airport there. What you can see is contested on the map. We've seen a lot of fighting in this region here as those Russian forces look to move westward towards the city. Before any major offensive occurs, they need to get some of these highways locked. They need to get some of these highways locked down. They need to link up, the Russian forces that are moving in from the east with the ones that are coming down from the north and west here. Before they can launch a full-on offensive into the city, because they will need to launch, artillery and shelling, and there will be bombardment that happens from all sides of the city before they move in. Again, this has been kind of this waiting game that we've been in now for about a week or two. The Russians try to make, a push to kind of, secure kind of that linkage between these forces here on the west and these forces here on the east, and we've seen the Ukrainians able to push back those forces, kind of repel those attacks time and time again. You can see though there are some areas like down here where those Russian forces are contesting in some of these areas down here. There's pockets that have broken off and are fighting for a lot of these areas, right over to Brovary, Boryspil, Ubakiv here, Veskaliv here, Borova. There's pockets of saboteurs, there's pockets of special forces, there's pockets of, these Russian forces that have broken off from this convoy, scattered throughout this area, looking to kind of take hold of this entire area to the south of Kyiv. They need to link up, again, with these forces that are to the east here. That's the primary goal right now before they launch a full offensive on the city. Early on we kept saying, it's going to happen in 24 hours, it's going to happen in 48 hours, and I think it's because we overestimated a little bit of how, or I guess we underestimated the Ukrainians' ability to, thwart the Russian movements outside the city. At first, it looked like the Russians were moving very fast, very aggressively. They took all of this territory here right up into the city. Right up to Irpin and Hostomel. They took all of this territory here on both sides. And then we saw kind of a shift. The Ukrainian Defense Forces started kind of cutting into these convoys in some areas and stopping, the Russians from advancing any further to the south. We also saw them flooding. We also saw them flooding some of these areas to the north and west of Kyiv here. In some of these areas here, they flooded the ground so that the Russian tanks and vehicles get stuck in the mud, so they can't traverse the area here. So when they blow some of these bridges in some of these areas, when they blow some of the roads, some of the bridges, the Russians are left with only one option. That's to go off-road, try to make their own roads into some of these areas. And the problem with that is that they've now flooded and saturated a lot of the ground, and so it makes it very hard, damn near impossible in some areas actually, to move some of these vehicles throughout the area. And then the whole time you have the Ukrainian Defense Forces coming at them, with drones, with drone attacks, from air, with anti-tank munitions on the ground, man-portable anti-tank systems, just tearing through a lot of these convoys and columns in the area. So they made it very hard for the Russians to get a foothold in and around Kyiv at this time. So moving on here, I think what we'll do is we'll take a look at Mariupol. Because Mariupol's a pretty interesting situation that's going on down there. Where is that now? Here it is. So you can see now that, up until this point, there was still, for a while, there was kind of an open path along the H20 highway here, heading northbound out of Mariupol. However, now the Russian forces completely surround Mariupol on all sides. However, the Ukrainian defensive forces that are still in the city of Mariupol are holding out. You can see here now that they've basically been encircled by those Russian forces. Okay, I think what we'll do actually, so again, we were looking at some of these force movements here on the map, kind of getting a look at some of the controlled territory by those Russian forces there. I think what we'll do is we're going to take a shift over here, and we'll kind of take a look at some of the top headlines for this evening. Okay, so here are your top headlines for this evening. Russia's defense ministry says the army and its separatist allies have made a breakthrough in Mariupol, which we were just speaking of there on the map, which has been under Russian shelling now for 2 days. Again, we've heard many reports of buildings being struck in Mariupol, of many civilian casualties. There's been a lot of death. There's been a lot of destruction happening in and around Mariupol. Russia announced that they have used a supersonic missile, the Kinzhal, as they call it, in a strike earlier today at a Ukrainian weapons depot. We did have confirmed reports from U.S. intelligence that shows that they did, in fact, use one of those weapons. The success of said strike is still to be determined. However, it is known at this time that that weapons depot was hit. We're not sure as to the extent of the damage, but if it was a direct hit, it most likely did destroy the weapons depot completely. Again, I believe that signals the first time they have used one of those hypersonic missiles in a strike in this war so far, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure if it's the first strike they've used in any war zone, but I'm pretty sure it's the first strike that they've used of a hypersonic weapons system in the Ukrainian battle space since this war has begun. Ukraine's defense ministry says it has temporarily lost access to the Azov Sea, which connects to the Black Sea and would be a major loss for Ukraine. Again, that comes as the Russian Navy looks to blockade a lot of the areas in and around the Black Sea, as well as lay mines. We were reporting on some of that activity earlier today. Britain says that Russia attempts to surround Kyiv and Mykolaiv have been pushed back. Their attempts have been pushed back, while heavy Russian shelling of the encircled cities of Kharkiv, Cherniv, Sumy, and Mariupol continues at this time. In the eastern city of Kharkiv, Russian strikes demolished a 6-story building of a higher education institution, killing one person and leaving another trapped in the wreckage, officials say. Russian forces have destroyed an aircraft repair plant near Lviv airport. We reported on this yesterday. No one is hurt. They reported that there were no casualties there. Mayor Andriy Sadovoy has said, reporting from a messaging app, Telegram. That's where he made that report. A UN migration agency estimated that nearly 6.5 million people have now been displaced inside Ukraine. We now have a higher number, around 10 million, that have fled the country. However, that's what they mean there is there's been 6.5 million people that have had to move to different places within Ukraine. So say people that are near Kharkiv have moved to other cities in Ukraine to avoid the shelling that is happening in Kharkiv. That's just an example. UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson says that Putin is in a total panic, air quotes, with a revolution brewing in Moscow. Again, we've heard, not only have these protests been ongoing there, but there's been some backlash from some of his hierarchy there in the Kremlin. So we're definitely going to have to keep an eye on that situation. Ukraine's Deputy Prime Minister, Irina Vereshchuk, announced Saturday that 10 humanitarian corridors have been arranged on with the Russian forces. Those include a corridor from the besieged city of Mariupol, several in the Kyiv region, and several in Luhansk region. Poland has proposed to the EU that the bloc impose a total ban, suspending all trade with Russia. The Prime Minister said that Saturday. Again, that was today, just earlier, a short time ago. Zelensky has called on the Swiss government to freeze the bank accounts of all Russian oligarchs. As we know, there are a lot of Russian oligarchs that still have active Swiss bank accounts to kind of circumvent some of these sanctions. It remains to be seen if Switzerland is going to act on those, but we will, again, we'll have to wait and see. China's vice foreign minister reiterated blame against NATO for the war in Ukraine and criticized sanctions against Russia in a speech delivered at a conference in Beijing on Saturday, saying NATO was a Cold War vestige and that its expansion could result in repercussions too dreadful to contemplate, air quotes, from a major power like Russia. Again, that's very unfortunate, seeing that sharp uptick in the rhetoric there. The UN says that nearly 900 civilians have been casualties of war since the invasion of Ukraine began on February 24th. Again, I imagine that number is most likely a lot higher. And now we're coming up here to our 1 month. It's been 1 month, our 1 month mark that this war has been going on. It's again, as time continues on, I guarantee that we'll see those casualty numbers sharply increase. A missile strike in Mykolaiv, Ukraine, the headquarters of the 36th Ukrainian Naval Infantry Brigade base, was targeted today in a missile strike, which killed dozens of Ukrainian service members. Fears grow of a Russian-Belarusian invasion of Ukraine as a large Belarusian military convoy was spotted heading towards Brest near the Polish border. Their assumed objective is to cut off access to Western weapon deliveries. Again, we've been monitoring those movements for about 24 to 48 hours now, and I was reporting on those a short time ago. Definitely very concerning to see those troop movements occurring. Um, uh, in that part of Belarus, there on that western border. Um, Definitely, it will be a sharp escalatory action for them to sweep down to Lviv and cut off that western end of Ukraine. That'll definitely change the outcome of this war for sure. Ukraine calls on China to condemn, air quotes, Russian barbarism, support civilized countries, and coalition. Again, there's been a lot of backlash from Western powers, accusing China of possibly looking to provide both lethal aid and financial aid to Russia to aid its war, its campaign in Ukraine. The Russian Space Agency has dismissed claims that Western media reports suggesting that Russian cosmonauts had chosen to wear yellow and blue suits in support of Ukraine. We saw photographic evidence of this earlier today. We know it to be true. I'm not sure if they wore those themselves again, or if they were told to do that by the space agency itself there in Russia. But we do know that they were wearing those Ukrainian-colored uniforms earlier today. We did see those photographs. The British Ministry of Defense says Ukraine's air forces are continuing to effectively defend Ukrainian airspace, very consistent with reports we've seen that Ukraine's air defense systems are still fully operational and have been a lot more resilient than previously estimated. Ukrainian forces have, air quotes, blown up a bridge near Kyiv to prevent its use for refueling supplies, etc., by the Russian forces. Again, earlier today, we saw pictures of that blown up bridge there in Kyiv. At the time, we were unsure if it was the Russian forces or if it was the Ukrainian forces that actually had blown the bridge. For initial reports had even hinted that it possibly was the Russian forces that had hit it, possibly accidentally. However, it does look now that, of course, it was the Ukrainian forces that had blown the bridge, which I originally had speculated on, as they looked to stop the Russian advance. Okay, so with that, that is kind of our timeline list of headline topics from tonight, from today, the 19th. I will kind of go through and just read you some of the real button topic headliners for this evening that are being reported on. So this is a post about 12 minutes ago, actually, that came in. Ukraine has claimed that another Russian general has been killed during heavy fighting in southern Ukraine. Ukrainian attack on an airfield in the south of the country last week is when this occurred. Killed a Russian general. This is now being confirmed by the Ukrainian military's general staff. Amid heavy fighting between the cities of Mykolaiv and Kherson, Ukrainian forces carried out an attack on the airport at Chernobylivka, just north of Kherson, on Wednesday. The airport was occupied by Russian forces and served as a forward command post of Russia's 8th Guards Command Arms Army, according to Ukrainian officials. Again, there was those reports there that Putin is in that air quotes total panic. This was from UK's Prime Minister Boris Johnson earlier this evening. Again, as the pressure is ramped up on Putin there in the Kremlin to wrap up this air quotes special military operation. This was reported on earlier. There's mourning by friends and colleagues there in Ukraine of the death of a Ukrainian ballet dancer that was killed, unfortunately, in Russian shelling. Her name was Artem Datshin. Again, sorry if I'm not pronouncing that correctly. She was a ballet dancer with Ukraine's National Opera House, and again died after being injured in Russian shelling. This was according to social media posts from her friends and colleagues there. Again, continuing with these civilian casualties here, this was reported about an hour ago. 2 children killed in a shelled building collapse during Russia's attack in eastern Ukraine. I believe that was in Rubizin. Yes, 2 children were killed in the town of Rubizin after being pulled from the rubble of a residential building, pummeled by Russian artillery fire. So again, from the past couple hours, the main headline topics, Mariupol residents forced to go to Russia against their will. I covered that a short time ago. Some details on that. Residents of Mariupol are being taken to Russian territory against their will by Russian forces, according to a statement from the Mariupol City Council. Captured Mariupol residents were taken to camps where Russian forces checked their phones and documents, the City Council had said. They were redirected to remote Russian cities. The besieged city is under almost constant bombardment, according to a major in Ukraine's army, and residents are rationing food and water as bodies are being left in the street. Again, they are surrounded by Russian forces there in Mariupol at this time. Again, Russia is, hoping that this military operation in Ukraine ends with security guarantees, and they expect the Chinese relations to get stronger. Air quotes. That was a reported earlier tonight. So those are kind of the headline topics there for this evening. I will have, again, some more information coming to you guys here shortly, but this was, I just wanted to give you kind of that quick nightly report there. Don't go anywhere, though. I'll be, continuing to give you some sporadic updates here. In fact, we're going to kind of go into a little bit more in-depth here in just a moment. I just wanted to record this quick update for everybody that I will then be uploading to YouTube here in a few moments as a video. Again, if you're watching along, make sure to hit that like button. It's the best way to get the attention of the algorithm. We are at its whim. And if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. It's the best way to support the channel. It's also the best way to get notified if our streams go down. When they come back up, you'll get notified. If we upload a new video, you'll get notifications for those. If you're interested in any of the sources or any of the topics that we discussed today, or any of our live cams here on the stream, you can find those in the description below the live stream or below this video. If you can't find what you're looking for there, you can definitely find it over in our Discord community. The link to that is discord.gg/NEMICO. Anybody is welcome to join over there. Make sure you read the rules first before you interact, but we'd love to have you guys. Every single one of you are welcome over on our Discord community server. Astrid Sanders says, how about that tweet that with Poland must be denazified? Yeah, we reported on that earlier, I believe, with my morning report. We saw that. Very concerning, that rhetoric coming out of Russia. Also very concerning developments at that rally yesterday we saw with President Putin there. Just some of the words that were exchanged there at that rally was very concerning. Some people were making comparisons to the Nuremberg trial rallies. Sorry. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly, but yeah, definitely very concerning rhetoric that's being exchanged here. Only time will tell where this situation goes, but it's definitely looking pretty dicey at this moment in time. Moscow, yeah, is assessing the geostrategic situation and will respond to threats. Yeah, definitely very concerning. There's talk of Moldova, there's talk of Poland, there's talk of Belarus. There's all these different factors at play here, all these different variables at play here. It's definitely a very dicey situation, that is for sure.